I should have seen it coming. The warning signs were there, yet I failed to connect them. When you place unwavering trust in someone, your mind refuses to acknowledge the obvious truth staring you in the face. It didn't happen in an obvious way. There was no sudden change in appearance, no excessive phone usage. No, Emily was far more careful than that. Her deception was subtle, seamlessly woven into our everyday routine, making it feel natural, until it didn't. The first real indication came on a regular Tuesday evening. I was preparing dinner in the kitchen when Emily walked in, her car keys dangling in her hand as if she was about to leave. Stirring the pasta, I glanced at her and asked, "Where are you going?" Without hesitation, she responded, "Book club." I frowned. "Since when do you have a book club?" She offered a small, almost dismissive smile, the kind people use when they assume you won't catch their lie. "Since last month. Sarah invited me. It's just a small group, nothing serious." I took note of it but didn't push further. It wasn't unusual for Emily to take up new hobbies. What stood out, however, was that she left without carrying a single book. That night, I woke up around 2 in the morning. The bed beside me was cold. Emily still wasn't home. Sitting up, I stared at the empty space, an uneasy feeling settling in my stomach. I told myself she was just enjoying herself, that maybe she had dozed off at Sarah's place. Then my phone vibrated. A message from Emily. "Staying at Sarah's. See you in the morning. Love you." I gripped my phone tightly, my knuckles turning white. In 6 years of marriage, Emily had never spent the night elsewhere without letting me know in advance. Something was off. I tried to sleep, but my mind wouldn't rest. The next morning, when she finally returned, something about her seemed different. Her hair was damp, as if she had just taken a shower, and she carried a scent that wasn't hers, a men's cologne I didn't recognize. "Morning," she greeted casually, tossing her bag onto the couch. I observed her closely. "Did you have fun?" I asked. Stretching her arms with a yawn, she replied, "Yeah, we had too much wine, so I just crashed at Sarah's." I knew she was lying. I didn't have concrete proof yet, but deep down, I could feel it. That's when I decided to test something. Pulling out my phone, I sent a quick message to Sarah. "Hey, just checking, did Emily stay over last night?" The read receipt appeared instantly. A few seconds later, I saw the typing bubbles. Then they disappeared, reappeared, vanished again. Finally, after an agonizing minute, her response came through. "Yeah, why?" That pause, that hesitation. It told me everything I needed to know. I didn't reply. Instead, I set my phone down and walked into the living room, where Emily was casually scrolling through Instagram, completely unaware. "Do you have work today?" I asked. She nodded without looking up. "Yeah, I have a client meeting this afternoon." That was another crack in her story. Emily worked as a freelance graphic designer. Her meetings were always virtual. She had no reason for an in-person appointment. I forced a smile, leaning against the doorway. "Where's your book?" She blinked, looking momentarily confused. "Huh, for your book club. What are you guys reading?" She opened her mouth, hesitated, then forced a laugh. "Oh, I actually forgot the name. It's some historical thing. Not really my vibe, but Sarah picked it." Another lie. I studied her carefully, as if analyzing a subject under a microscope. The more I observed, the clearer it became. Her words didn't quite fit together, like puzzle pieces forced into place. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't looking for hints anymore. I was searching for undeniable proof. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how much someone tries to conceal it. And Emily? She was beginning to slip. I waited, playing along, pretending I believed her. If I pressed too hard too soon, she'd become defensive and cover her tracks more carefully. Instead, I needed her to feel safe, to believe she had fooled me. So, I smiled. I kissed her goodnight. I asked about her book club, all while laying the foundation for the moment she would expose herself. It didn't take long. One evening, she mentioned another client meeting. This time, I didn't question her. I simply nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and told her to enjoy herself. She seemed relieved, believing I had stopped suspecting anything. That was her mistake. The moment she stepped out the door, I grabbed my keys and followed. She didn't notice me. She was too occupied with her phone, grinning at whatever messages she was sending. I kept my distance, trailing her as she drove across town. If she truly had a meeting, I would end up looking foolish. But something inside me told me that wouldn't be the case. And I was right. Emily pulled into the parking lot of a cheap motel, the kind of place people don't check into just to sleep. I sat in my car, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel as I watched her. She stepped out, casually smoothing her hair in the side mirror before striding into room 214, as if it were something she had done countless times before. I remained still, not ready to move just yet. My heart pounded, my hands trembled, but I forced myself to stay composed. I had everything I needed, solid, irrefutable proof, but I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. If she was brazen enough to look me in the eye, spin her lies, and still walk into that motel room without hesitation, then she was bold enough to think she could outsmart me. And I wanted to hear her try. The drive home was silent. No music, no distractions, just the rhythmic hum of the tires on the pavement. My hands felt disconnected from the rest of me, my body on autopilot while my mind struggled to process what I had just witnessed. Emily, my wife, had walked into a motel room with another man. The urge to slam on the brakes, turn around, and kick open that door was overwhelming. I wanted to see exactly what kind of man she had chosen over me. I wanted to witness the panic in her eyes when she realized she had been caught. But that would have been too simple. She would deny it, cry, scramble for excuses. No, I needed her to dig her own grave. I wanted to hear her lie to me one more time, look me in the eye, and tell me she had been at some meaningless book club while I held undeniable evidence in my hands. So I waited. 3 hours later, she walked through the front door as if nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," she greeted, tossing her purse onto the counter. "How was your night?" I looked up from the couch, masking every emotion beneath a neutral expression. "Uneventful." "How was your meeting?" She stretched her arms, letting out an exaggerated yawn. "Ugh. So boring. I swear, these clients just love hearing themselves talk." I nodded slowly. "Yeah? Where was it?" For the briefest second, she hesitated before recovering with a smile. "Oh, just a little cafe downtown." A lie. I studied her, letting the silence stretch just enough to make her uneasy. And there it was, the subtle shift in her stance, the way she reached for her phone as if seeking an escape from my gaze. I forced a small smile. "Glad it went well." She smiled back, oblivious. "I'm gonna take a shower." I watched as she disappeared down the hall. She had no idea. The next morning, I called in to take the day off. I needed more than just my own eyes on this. I needed undeniable, inescapable proof. So I hired a private investigator, a recommendation from a coworker who had been through this same betrayal. By the end of the week, I had everything. Photos, videos, timestamps. Emily wasn't just having an affair, she had built an entire second life. And she hadn't even tried to hide it. Different restaurants, public parks, even a hotel we had once stayed in together. She had walked into all of them, her hand linked with someone else's. And then, I saw his face. Something inside me snapped. Because I knew him. My stomach twisted as realization crashed over me. Emily hadn't been sneaking around with some random stranger. Not a coworker, not a gym trainer, not some guy she had met online. It was Nathan, my best friend. The man who had stood beside me as my best man on my wedding day. The one I had shared drinks with, confided in, trusted like a brother. I stared at the photos, my pulse pounding in my ears. There he was, his hand resting on her waist, his mouth close to her ear, whispering something that made her laugh in a way she hadn't laughed with me in months. The two of them, sitting close at a dimly lit bar, her fingers tracing idle circles on his arm. Walking side by side into a hotel, their bodies pressing together as if they couldn't wait to be alone. Everything fell into place. The nights Emily insisted Nathan should join us for dinner. The inside jokes they shared, ones I was never a part of. The way she had defended him when his last girlfriend left, insisting he was just misunderstood. I had been made a fool. But I wasn't angry. What I felt was colder. Sharper. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not in the way she expected. No, I wanted this to hit her like a freight train. I wanted her to believe she had won, that she had gotten away with it. So I waited. That night, I acted as if nothing had changed. We ate dinner together, watched a show on Netflix, and when she leaned in to kiss me goodnight, I let her. "I love you," she whispered. I whispered it back. She had no idea that by this time tomorrow, her entire world would crumble around her. The next morning, I woke before Emily. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. My wife. My betrayer. By tonight, she wouldn't be sleeping in this bed. Slipping out quietly, I grabbed my phone and sent a message to Nathan. Me. "Hey man, you free tonight? Need some advice about Emily. Thinking of planning a surprise for her." His response came almost instantly. "Nathan, yeah, of course. Want to grab a drink?" Perfect. The fool had no idea he was walking straight into his own downfall. I spent the rest of the day setting everything into motion. I took decisive action, heading straight to the bank to freeze all our joint accounts. With that done, I met with a lawyer, handed over every piece of evidence I had gathered, and pushed to get the divorce proceedings underway immediately. I even paid extra to accelerate the process. There was no time to waste. Emily had always carried herself with an air of invincibility, as if nothing could touch her. But she had no idea that everything she took for granted was about to be stripped away. By the time evening rolled around, I was fully prepared. Nathan and I met at the bar we had been frequenting for years, our usual spot. He greeted me with his familiar easygoing grin, the same laid-back demeanor that had always been part of his charm. But this time, I saw him differently. We ordered drinks and exchanged casual conversation. I let him believe everything was normal, playing my part flawlessly. Then, after a few minutes, I leaned in, my tone light but deliberate. Swirling the whiskey in my glass, I mused, I've noticed some changes in Emily lately. She's been going out more often, staying out late. Says she has a book club. For just a split second, Nathan tensed. It was subtle, so quick that most people would have missed it. But I didn't. I smirked and pressed on. Ever heard her mention it? He forced out a chuckle, scratching the back of his neck. Nah, man. But, women do their own thing sometimes. Liar. Without a word, I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen a few times, and slid it across the table. Funny, I said, watching him closely. Because according to my investigator, her book club meets at a motel. And you, Nathan, happen to be the guest of honor. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His gaze darted from the photos on the screen back to me, sheer panic settling in. I raised a hand, cutting him off before he could even start. Save it. Leaning back, I let him squirm under my steady stare. I already know everything. Here's how this is going to go. You're going to sit here, finish your drink, and not contact Emily. And in about an hour, she'll realize she no longer has a husband, a home, or access to our money. Nathan swallowed hard, his expression pleading. Come on, man, it wasn't. I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. It wasn't what? A betrayal? A complete destruction of trust? I exhaled sharply. You two deserve each other. With that, I stood, tossed some cash on the table, and gave his shoulder a single pat. Enjoy the disaster you created. Then, without looking back, I walked out, leaving him drowning in his own guilt. Now it was Emily's turn. As I pulled into the driveway, the setting sun cast long shadows across our house. It looked the same as ever, but to me, it felt different now. Like a crime scene before the authorities arrive. Emily's car was parked in its usual spot. Perfect. She was home. She had no idea what was coming. I stepped inside, my footsteps steady, controlled. In the kitchen, Emily stood at the counter, humming softly as she poured herself a glass of wine. She looked at ease, completely unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. She turned, smiling when she saw me. Hey, you're home early. I smiled back, setting my keys on the counter. Yeah, had an interesting talk with Nathan. For a split second, her fingers tightened around the wine glass. It was such a small reaction, so quick most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. She recovered quickly, taking a slow sip before responding. Oh, how is he? I took a step closer, keeping my voice even. Oh, he's great. We had a fascinating conversation about your book club. The color drained from her face. Silence stretched between us. Her grip on the glass tightened. Her breathing shallowed, but she said nothing. She was waiting, calculating, trying to assess just how much I knew. So I decided to help her out. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out my phone and placed it on the counter in front of her. The screen was still open to the photos, her and Nathan at the motel, in his car, holding hands like some blissfully unaware couple out for a date. Emily stared at the images, her mouth slightly open. I crossed my arms. Want to explain, or should I? Her gaze finally lifted to meet mine. Shock flashed across her features, followed by guilt, and then, unbelievably, irritation. Oh, come on, Matt. She rolled her eyes and set her wine glass down. Did you really hire a private investigator? Isn't that a little dramatic? I blinked. Dramatic. She sighed, crossing her arms. Look, I knew you were getting suspicious, but this? She gestured toward the phone dismissively. This is just childish. Snooping around, spying on me. That's pathetic. I let out a sharp laugh. I'm pathetic? I'm the problem here. She shook her head, exhaling like I was the one exhausting her. Matt, you don't get it. Our marriage has been over for a while now. I just finally decided to do something about it. I stared at her. By running around with my best friend? She shrugged. Actually shrugged. I didn't plan for it to happen. But Nathan listens to me. He makes me feel wanted. My jaw tightened. So instead of talking to me, instead of working on this like an adult, you just walked away? Started sneaking around like a coward. She scoffed. Oh, please. Like you would have changed. You're so predictable, Matt. So boring. Always following the same routine. Acting like everything's fine when we're just going through the motions. I exhaled slowly, refusing to let her twist this into something it wasn't. All right, I said, stepping toward the front door. You want excitement? Here's some. I opened the door and moved aside. Get out. Emily blinked. What? I motioned toward the open doorway. You heard me. Get out. Emily let out a short, incredulous laugh, shaking her head as if I were joking. Oh, come on. You can't be serious. My lips curled into a smirk. Completely serious. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out a folder and casually tossed it onto the counter beside my phone. That's your copy of the divorce papers. I already signed them. As for you, you don't get a say in this. Her mouth opened slightly, then shut again. For the first time, she was speechless. You can't just. I can, I interrupted, my voice steady. And I did. I leaned against the counter, letting the weight of my words sink in. The house. Not yours. The bank accounts? Already frozen. You have no money, no backup plan, and nowhere to stay. I tilted my head slightly, watching as realization dawned on her. Maybe Nathan can take you in. Oh, wait. His name isn't on his lease, is it? Her face twisted in shock, then anger. You planned this. I nodded without hesitation. You're absolutely right, I did. For the first time since this all began, uncertainty flickered in her eyes. The confidence she had carried so effortlessly began to crumble, revealing a flicker of fear beneath the surface. She had believed she had it all figured out, certain she could balance both lives without consequence. But now, it was clear, she had risked everything and lost. Her breath hitched as she took a shaky step forward, attempting a different approach. Matt, baby. Her voice softened, trying to evoke the affection we once shared. We don't have to do this. We can fix this. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. Oh, sweetheart. My smile was cold. You've already lost. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed, eyes darting to the door. I don't have anywhere to go. I gestured toward the open door again. Not my problem. For the first time since I had met her, Emily looked truly lost. And I enjoyed it. She had stepped into that motel room with Nathan believing she had won. But now, she was stepping out of my house with nothing. And that was the sweetest victory of all. Yet, she still didn't move. Instead, she stood frozen, blinking at me like she was struggling to process the reality unfolding around her. It was as if her mind couldn't grasp the fact that she was no longer in control, that I was the one holding all the power now. Her lips parted again, voice quieter this time, almost pleading. Matt, don't do this. We can talk. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. We are talking, and you're still in my house. She exhaled sharply, frustration creeping into her tone. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Again, not my problem. You had plenty of places to be when you were sneaking around. I'm sure you'll figure something out. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then, slowly, I saw it, the shift. The panic in her eyes dulled, replaced by something else. Calculation. The moment she realized pleading wouldn't work, she switched tactics. Fine, she snapped, grabbing her purse with a huff. You want me gone? I'll go. But don't think for a second that this is over. You owe me, Matt. 6 years of marriage, and you're tossing me aside like trash. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Oh, I owe you. That's funny coming from the woman who spent months using our marriage as her safety net while sleeping with my best friend. Emily rolled her eyes, exasperated. Oh my God, grow up. People cheat, Matt. It happens. You don't have to act like it's the end of the world. And that was it. That was the moment I realized the woman I had married was completely gone. No regret. No remorse. Just pure entitlement. You're unbelievable, I muttered, shaking my head. She grabbed her keys from the counter, storming toward the door, but then hesitated. Turning back, she gave me one last smug smile. You'll regret this, she said, her tone dripping with certainty. I smirked right back. I already regret marrying you. That wiped the smirk right off her face. I stepped aside, pushing the door open wider. Now get out. She hesitated, as if considering throwing one last insult or attempting one final guilt trip. But something in my expression must have told her it would be pointless. Instead, she let out a scoff, flipped her hair over her shoulder, and marched out the door. I didn't say a word. I didn't even watch her leave. I simply closed the door and locked it. For the first time in months, the house felt different, lighter. The air wasn't suffocating anymore. The invisible weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had vanished. Emily was out of my life, but I wasn't celebrating just yet. There was still one final move left to make. Her car had sped off so fast I half expected skid marks on the pavement. But I knew her too well. She wouldn't go far. Emily was a survivor, a manipulator. She would do whatever it took to turn this in her favor. And there was only one person foolish enough to catch her when she fell. Nathan. I had one last message to send before I could finally close this chapter. Pulling out my phone, I typed out a simple text. Me. She's all yours, buddy. Then, without hesitation, I blocked his number. I already knew exactly how this would play out. I could picture her storming into Nathan's apartment, voice shrill, demanding he take her in. And I knew, without a doubt, what his reaction would be. Nathan was never the type to take responsibility. He was the kind of guy who always had an escape plan, someone who found ways to shift the blame. It was easy for him to sneak around with Emily when she still had a home, a husband, a stable life to fall back on. But now, she was his problem. Deep down, I knew he wouldn't want this. I could already imagine the argument playing out in my head. Emily. Nathan, I don't have anywhere else to go. Nathan. Wait, you actually left? Emily, I didn't leave. Matt threw me out. Nathan, and what exactly do you expect me to do about it? Oh, it was going to be quite the spectacle. And me? I was going to sleep like a baby tonight. I let out a slow breath and placed my phone down. The house was silent now, apart from the low hum of the fridge in the kitchen. It felt different. Better. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I wasn't preoccupied with thoughts of Emily, who she was texting, what new excuse she'd come up with next. That chapter was closed. And I had won. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. No Emily. No more deception. No more knots in my stomach, wondering what she was up to. Just stillness. Peace. Freedom. I stretched, got out of bed, and took my time making breakfast, something I hadn't done in far too long. There was no rush to get to work, no lingering weight of a marriage that had been over long before I finally laid it to rest. I was free. Then, just as I finished my coffee, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Emily. I smirked. Right on schedule. I let it ring. Moments later, a text popped up. Emily, Matt. Call me. We need to talk. No, we didn't. I ignored it and continued with my day. Then another message. Emily, I don't have anywhere to go. I took a slow sip of coffee, my eyes lingering on the words for a moment. Then, without hesitation, I typed my response. Me, not my problem. And that should have been the end of it. I should have put my phone down and moved forward. But deep inside, I had a nagging feeling. This wasn't over. I was right. A few hours later, another message arrived. This time, not from Emily. Nathan, dude. What the hell did you do? I couldn't help but laugh. Me, what's wrong? Your new girlfriend, not as fun now that she doesn't have a place to stay? The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, then came back, then vanished again. Nathan, she's outside my place. Screaming. Won't leave. I didn't sign up for this, man. I shook my head. Of course. Nathan had been all about the thrill, the sneaking around, the excitement of doing something forbidden. But now that Emily was well and truly his, he didn't want her anymore. How poetic. Me, oh no. Anyway, and with that, I blocked his number too. I could picture it so clearly. Emily standing outside Nathan's place, demanding to be let in, only now realizing she had backed herself into a corner with no escape. She had burned every bridge, played her game, and lost. And I was officially done. I never heard from Emily again. At least, not directly. Days passed, and my life slowly settled into something new, something better. I returned to work, reconnected with old friends, and even started going to the gym again. It dawned on me just how much I had neglected while playing the role of a trusting husband to a woman who had been laughing at me behind my back. Then, one evening, as I was leaving the office, James, a coworker who had always been more of an acquaintance than a friend, stopped me by the elevator. Man, he said with an amused shake of his head, you really did a number on your ex. I raised an eyebrow. What? He chuckled. Emily. She was at my buddy's bar last night. Completely wasted. Ranting about how you ruined her life. How you set her up and left her homeless. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. And James shrugged. And nothing, really. Everyone just kind of nodded and ignored her. Nobody wants to listen to a bitter ex trash-talking the guy who threw her out for cheating. She kept going on about how you were going to regret this, how she was going to get back at you. But honestly, he smirked. She just sounded pathetic. I exhaled, taking that in. It was exactly what I had expected. Emily wasn't remorseful. She wasn't reflecting on her mistakes. She was just angry that she had lost. And that was all the confirmation I needed. That marriage had been over long before I ended it. James gave me a pat on the shoulder. You did the right thing, man. You should have seen her. If anything, you dodged a bullet. I nodded, a small smile forming on my lips. Yeah, I said, meaning it for the first time. I did. Emily was gone. Nathan was left to deal with the mess. And me? I was finally free.